Welcome back to the Lineout Lab. My name is Peter O'Donnell. In this video, we're going to look at how teams are attacking the seam, but it's actually a new way of doing it, and I like to call it the new seam. So let's look at this in a bit more detail. But before getting into it, if you're new to the channel, please click that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of your screen where you get access to loads of additional content from me. Please also like and share the video to help the discussion grow. Thank you. So the new seam, as I like to call it, we see a lot of teams score cracking tries, like we see in this Northampton one, and there's a couple of really cool intricacies around it, and it looks like it's bad defense, but it's actually really good attack with a lot of these tries, not necessarily specific to this incident. So let's look at it as I say, in a bit more detail. So what we see is Northampton, as I say, win the ball at the back of the line out, and the key thing that they're looking to do with this is they're going to exploit the tail gunner, because a lot of teams will often defend with the first, I suppose, the tail gunner defending the first man off the line out or the inside threat if there is one. And but what's a little bit different about this is, or how a lot of teams usually attack the seam, is they try and get into this space and try and create a disconnect between the tail gunner and the first defender off the line out. And now we're looking at teams go one step further and go inside that space. So we see the tail gunner here go forward, and it's actually this space that we're going to see now in a second that we're looking to attack between the tail gunner and the last man on the line out. And as we play on, we'll notice what the 10 does really well, and the winger, is that he steps inside, the 10 steps inside, and the blindside winger works to the outside, which means tail gunner's probably thinking I have 10, the next defender's thinking I've got the trailer, working to the outside shoulder, but there's no one covering the inside space. And that's traditionally how a lot of teams would have defended, which Northampton exploit well. And then we see our left winger here get in for a great try, and obviously he rightly celebrates. So traditionally, a lot of teams are looking to get into the seam and get into that space. But now, as I said, we're looking, as teams come up, we're actually looking to try and exploit them in a slightly different way. And Northampton did a brilliant job of that at the weekend. And it's really hard to defend. The other interesting thing about that is if we go back to this try here, the other interesting thing about this is that there's a nice little bit of detail around the blind side, sorry, the last man, the line out for Northampton, because Munster compete. Okay, if you just keep your eyes on this last man in the line out, notice where he goes after to help create and preserve that space. So he'll actually step in. You see him there. His initial job is he almost drops his own man after he's delivered it to block that space and create and try and preserve that space a bit more. So now there's a massive disconnect between the tail gunner and the last man, the line out. So really hard to defend, and exploited. As I say, it exploits the tail gunner and the last man. So really difficult, really good attack. And we see teams time now, or more so now, exploiting that space, or looking to exploit the last man off the line, which we see in our next clip here. So let's get a bit of a closer look on this one. So from a breakout, not quite, almost a carbon copy of it, but from a breakout, but a little bit different. And we got to look at it now in the replay. So what we look for is the +1. He'll come in and, I suppose, rip and then break out. Last man on the line, he'll actually bind and do a similar job here to prevent. But what's different about this one is the tail gunner and the last man both get out. So here's your tail gunner, here's your last man of the line out, and they're pretty well set up, which makes this an even better try. You have your first receiver, you have a blindside wing, you have a guy kind of looping around for a bit more animation, but the ball actually goes back inside to the scrum half. And you can see here, if we watch the top corner of the screen, it's the men who continue that extra bit of drive, which help preserve that space on the inside. So there's not a huge amount wrong, really, when you think about it. Has the last man on the line overrun? Possibly so. But again, there's so much going on here. The space is really well created because you want guys closing that space down. These guys have done a good job blocking. I think this is also excellent attack for me. So really nice intricacies in both these tries, and they lead to 2 great scores. So thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts.